Hello, thank you for watching my channel today. My name is Sarah and my channel is called Your True Shelf. And this video is a little bit late because it's now sort of almost mid-July as I film this, but I'm going to record my books of the year so far for 2021. I love watching these from other people because everyone reads such great books and most of the time they enjoy a lot of what they read, and so actually seeing people narrow it down to like a top 10 is always really enjoyable, and it kind of makes me want to focus on those books more if they're on my wish list. So I have chosen 10 and I've put them in order kind of arbitrarily because, as we all know, it changes day to day, mood to mood. If we reread the same books, they may well be in a different order again. So we'll just, it's kind of arbitrary. And I've reread 3 books this year, and I've excluded them from the runnings just because I already knew that I loved them. So those 3 books were out of the equation. So without further ado, I'm going to start at number 10. And this number 10 was A Lie With Me by Philippe Besson, translated by Molly Ringwald. This is a short little book, and I am no longer in possession of this book, so I can't hold it up, so I'll insert a picture. This is about Philippe, who is a author in his 40s, I would say, in a cafe, and he sees this man go past, this young man. He's probably 20 years younger than him, and he thinks it's his the guy who broke his heart when he was a teenager. And then he thinks, well, obviously it can't be because we'd be the same age. But he goes after him anyway. And then we kind of get transported back into time to the love story that these 2 guys developed. And we follow how it starts and how it ends, and it's a very moving book. It's a really kind of a nod to how damaging it can be if you're not able to express who you are and love who you want to love, and a very moving story. So that was my number 10. Number 9 on the list was this one, which was a complete surprise, even though it's beloved on BookTube. It's The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. I read this book when I was doing my Can I Read a Whole Shelf in a Month challenge. This would have been on my shelves for a long time because I bought it in a charity shop because everyone loved it so much when it was on the Women's Prize shortlist in 2019. But I thought I wasn't a fan of myth retellings, so I thought it would probably just languish for ages. So I read it. I'm so glad that I read it because I really loved it. This is about a retelling from the female point of view of the Trojan War, and we focus on Briseis, who is kidnapped, and she is given to Achilles as like a bed slave, and it just follows like the story of the women. It's very brutal, but also beautifully told. It evokes a lot of emotion. We care about the characters. You get to hear from some of the men's point of view, like Achilles and Patroclus. You get to hear about their story together, about war and rivalries and love. And this book was so good. I really, really enjoyed it. And it's made me kind of reconsider when I say that I don't like myth retellings, because obviously I do. So number 8 was a book that I read quite recently, and that is Slay by Brittney Morris, with a wonderful cover. And this is a book about Kira, it's a YA book. Kira is a teen in her late teens, and she has created a video game called Slay. And this is a game that is hugely popular, but nobody knows, even her parents, her boyfriend, her sister, that Kira created it herself. And Slay is just for black people to play because she created it so that they had a safe space to play online without having to fear racism or abuse online. So it's a place where they can go, be themselves, not have to worry about anybody attacking them racially. And they create avatars and they battle each other. And so that's the game. And then it's all going really well until in real life, one Slayer murders another over a dispute in the game, and then Slay hits the news, and it's vastly misinterpreted about sort of the premise of the game. There's a lot of like white fragility about why white people aren't allowed to play the game, and it's and then Kira has this like huge dilemma of what to do because nobody knows it was her, but she feels like she can't say anything that, you know, about the fact that she created the game. So it focuses on her personal relationships, like the relationship she has with her boyfriend, but it also focuses on sort of interracial relations, about like I say, white fragility, about gaming. I think I know a lot of people say this, but Ready Player One, if you enjoyed that, which I really did, I think you definitely like Slay. But it's different to Ready Player One. It's different in the way that it discusses race and stuff like that. Yeah, that's obviously a central theme to the book. So I really loved this, and that was my number 8. Number 7. Now I'm wondering whether this would have been higher, but I read it right at the beginning of the year, so sometimes then your feelings that you have immediately kind of wane over time. But number 7 was Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend. This is the 3rd in the Nevermore series about Morrigan Crow, and it's a series about Morrigan, who is a teenager, or early teens, and she is at a school, in Nevermore, and she has magical powers. Everybody has magical powers in the school, and that people are scared of her powers. I can't really talk much about the premise of the book or anything, because this is number 3 in the series, but if you like Harry Potter, you will like the Nevermore series. And it's a really wonderful series. I think each book has got better each year. So if you fancy a new series, this is middle grade, but I'd say it's old middle grade. Like, I would say probably kind of anyone can. I mean, this is definitely one that adults can enjoy as well. Absolutely. I've seen lots of people who are adults who love this book. But I'd say, it's older middle grade, so it's not kind of babyish at all. It deals with some quite big themes. So I absolutely love this. It's escapist. It's well written. Can't wait for the next one. Number 6 on my list is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This book was like the right book at the right time for me. So I was having a bit of a difficult time, and I thought I really want to read the Midnight Library. So I literally got it on Audible and started it straight away. And it was just like such a soothing and appropriate book for the time for me. So I have memories of like sitting at my kitchen table and doing cross stitch and listening to this on my earphones and just really enjoying it. So this follows our character called Nora Seed, who is single, and she works at a music shop, and she decides that she's going to take an overdose. She's battled with depression for her whole life, and she takes an overdose, and she ends up in a place called the Midnight Library, where her old school librarian is the librarian in the library, and all of the books on the library shelves are different versions of her life if she'd done things differently. So really small decisions that she could have made, which then turn into a volume on the shelf. And she's free to pick any volume and try it out, and if she likes the life enough, then she can stay there. And if she doesn't, if she feels disappointment with the life, she will then be returned back to the Midnight Library. So, that's the premise of the book. And she has this huge book called The Book of Regrets. And so there might be things like, I wish I'd gone with my best friend to Australia on a gap year. And then they say, okay, well, her librarian says, fine, let's find you a book where you did do that and you can try out and see how it went. And then as she tries the lives and returns, because obviously she's been disappointed, then these regrets start being erased from the book, because she realises what actually wouldn't have worked out if she'd done X, Y or Z. So it was just, I loved it. I loved the audio because Carey Mulligan reads it, and I really like Carey Mulligan. She's got a gorgeous voice. I just really loved the book. Like I say, it was so comforting at the time. It's my first Matt Haig, and I follow Matt Haig online. I just find him such a positive person, so inspiring in how he talks about mental health. And I am definitely going to read more Matt Haig ASAP. So that was my number 6. Number 5, I have a short story collection, and I am not a short story person. Like, if anyone says this is a book of short stories, my immediate reaction is because I like getting involved with people for longer, and I just find like every time a short story finishes, you then obviously have to get to know new people and stuff like that. Having said that, whenever I read short stories, albeit not very often, I do enjoy them. And this collection I read because of Lauren and the Books. It was her book of the year last year, and I adored it. So this was another Audible one for me, and this is Love in Colour by Bolu Babalola. This is another series of retellings. So this is sort of taking myths and legends and folk stories from around the world and retelling them. And a lot of it's set in Nigeria, some of it's set in London, and the people who read it on Audible have like the beautiful accents in the book, which I think really brings it to life more as well. This is a really sensual collection, so it's about relationships and love, and it's really it's about just different couples, like some same-sex couples, some different sex couples, and just like really, really sensual, really imaginative. The character, you just love all the characters, even though you're with them for quite a short time, you feel like you know them. It's just like magical the way that she retells these. And some of the legends I'd heard of, like Pyramus and Thisbe, some of them I hadn't. She has characters like Eros in there. Some of them were, I think, Nigerian folk tales that I hadn't heard of the characters, and she's also put some original bonus modern day stories in there as well, and I just loved all of it. So if you fancy a short story collection, or even if you think you don't like them like me, this one will blow you away. It was fantastic and beautiful, and loved it. Oh, and I also used it for the most beautiful cover prompt for Pop Sugar, because the cover is stunning as well. Number 4 was The Voting Bead by Brandy Colbert. So, The Voting Bead is another YA book, and this follows 2 characters, Martha and Duke, who are both 18 and they can both vote for the first time. Martha is a very high achiever. She goes to a fancy school. She has been trying to get young people to take up their right to vote. She's been helping them pre-register. She's been advertising and canvassing and everything for to get young people interested in politics. And Duke is going to go and vote for the first time. And when he gets to his polling station, Martha's just voted, and he gets there, they don't know each other, and he gets turned away because they say, sorry, you're not registered here. And then Martha gets cross because she's like, look, this guy's just come, made the effort to vote, and you're just turning him away. And she's like, look, I'll help you, we'll get you to the right place. And so in the end, Martha and Duke end up spending set mostly over the course of a day, and they end up spending this day together, which turns out to be more complex. And this is another thing it deals with. So Martha's black and Duke is biracial, and it talks a lot about so many issues, but including how it can be quite difficult for black people to vote, and they have to have a lot of determination in some circumstances because of They give examples in the book just about how it's made quite tricky, especially for people who have difficulty getting to their polling stations, people who make a real big effort to get there and they find out they need to go somewhere else, how they get to a station and then they run out of ballot papers in that area. So unless they're prepared to wait for hours while they get some more, they have to go home. And it's just talks a lot about the kind of the difficulties for people who want to vote sometimes. And it talks about loads of other stuff. It talks about activism, music, death of family members, pets. It talks about loads of stuff, but I loved the relationship between Duke and Marva. I think that teens and young people have such great books to read to learn about positive relationships these days. Like, I don't think that was around when I was that age, but there's some brilliant relationship role models, and I think that Duke and Marva, absolutely, I'd be really happy if my kids read that book because they are really inspiring. So that was that one. Where are we up to? Hold on, we're up to number 3. It's really hard with my third and second. I'm not sure which way around they should go. Okay, so I'll stick with what I've written down, but this is a real close call. So number 3 is More Myself by Alicia Keys. This is her autobiography or her memoir, which is another Audible, and she reads it herself, which I love it when a memoir is read by the author, because you hear it as they wanted you to hear, as they wanted you to hear it. Alicia Keys, I enjoy her music, but I wasn't like an avid fan or anything. And I just saw this on when there was an Audible sale. I listened to the sample and I was sucked in straight away. And this book was absolutely phenomenal. So Alicia talks about like her life from when she was a baby up to current day. She is an incredible woman. She has she's been through hard times, and she has a really strong relationship with her mum, and she has an absent father figure, which she talks a lot about. She talks so much about like her creative process in her music and how she got to where she is today. She talks about the issues that women face in the public eye and in general. She talks a lot about like body image, about how women are perceived in the media, about how women are expected to behave, about raising children, about blended families, about spiritual stuff. So she talks a lot about like meditation and sort of retreats, and how she really like learns to get her intuition like honed in, so she can really listen to her inner voice on what she wants, and how she finds her voice and her courage to say no to things and yes to things, and how she starts her own charities. How she is somebody who isn't really interested in like bling and being flashy and that kind of stuff. She's just interested in like her craft and her personal development. And this was just like I'm kind of talking this up. I think I'm going to swap this as my number 2 book, maybe even my number 1 book. I don't know, it's really hard, but I absolutely love this book. And if you want to read a phenomenal memoir, I'd highly recommend Alicia Keys' book because it's just wonderful. Number 2 on my list is This Close to OK by Leesa Cross-Smith, another Audible. I'm going to actually add up how many of these were Audible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 of these were ones I listened to on Audible. This is This Close to OK by Leesa Cross-Smith. And this is a book which I've seen a little bit on BookTube, but not tons. So we have our 2 characters, Tally and Emmett. Tally is a therapist who has recently split up from her husband. Her husband cheated on her. They were trying to have a baby and they were unsuccessful, and her husband cheated on her and got someone else pregnant and left her for this other woman. So she's gone through a lot of pain. And she's driving home from work one day when she sees a guy. He's standing on a bridge and he's going to jump. He's going to kill himself. And she stops the car. She starts trying to talk him down, and then she feels like she can't just leave him. So they go for a coffee, and then she ends up inviting him back to hers to stay at hers because he doesn't have anywhere to go. And they end up spending like the weekend together. So again, this book is set over a short period of time, which I think actually is quite a bit of a theme in here, because so is my number 1 book. And so I think I obviously like books where it's set over a short time but we like really get to know people. So anyway, so this is about Emmett and Tally are getting to know each other. They do a couple of things behind each other's backs which are a bit sneaky. We don't know exactly like Emmett's story, whether we can trust him. He seems to be a good guy. There's again this book, so there's themes of suicide, there's themes of infertility. There's themes of divorce and pain and trauma, but this book is like super cozy as well, so it deals with those issues well, but also it's like talks about little things you can do in your day-to-day to like Tally loves, she talks about like the textures she loves, like her woolly sweaters, and she talks about things like her candles, her warm drinks, what she likes you know, as different teas, and about food and about smells, and just like things that are comforting about how she like keeps her apartment. So whilst there's some really serious themes, this is by no means a depressing book. I'd say this is a really uplifting book which could actually bring joy, definitely. And I just really loved it, and I really want to see if Leesa Smith has written any more stuff, and if she has, I need to read it. So my number one book, another Audible, is The Pill of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. I read this and wrapped this up last month, so I've talked about it quite recently. This is again set over a couple of days, maybe 3 days, and we are following nurse Julia Power. Julia is a woman in her 20s who's a midwife, and she is working on the maternity ward for people suffering from the Spanish flu. So her patients are pregnant and also have the flu, and this was set in 1918, which was the last pandemic. Interestingly, Emma Donoghue did not know about COVID when she started writing this book, but there are many parallels that you can draw between now and then. And we are so lucky that we're in this pandemic rather than the last one in terms of what we can do, because in those days there was literally like nothing to do for people apart from give them like rub stuff on their chests basically and just nurse them. So yeah, so she's dealing with monitoring the pregnancies, dealing with women in labour who are like hacking their lungs up, who are feverish, who are septic. And the medicine, I found the medical details really interesting about how different things were managed in those days. I'd say they're like spot on, the details that she that I knew that she gave. But you really learn about these women. So you learn about Julia. You learn about what it's like growing up in Catholic Ireland in the early part of the last century, and about what it's like for the poverty, the lack of birth control, the abuse that some of the women face, the bigotry that goes on, and you learn about these women. You really get to know them. You learn about the women whose babies die or who have come from mother and baby homes, who are unmarried, and you just feel for these women so much and you care about them so much. And I just love this book. I don't think I'm really doing it justice describing it, I don't know, but I just really love this book so much, and the characters have really stayed with me. I cared so much about the mums and the babies. I didn't want anything to happen to them. If it did, I was really sad. And yeah, so I just I loved hearing about, like I say, the medical side, the relationships, the women, there's what it was like at the time to live there, and the depth that we get to spend with everybody as well. So far that is my book of the year. So tell me, like, if you've made one of these videos, please tell me so I can watch your video, because I would love to. And also, if you have any thoughts about any of the books I've mentioned, also please tell me. Or if you'd just like to tell me what your favourite like few books were of 2021 so far, that would also be cool. So I hope to hear from you, and thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a good week, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye!